Hi everyone, my name is Goblin and welcome to a video for the Elder Scrolls Online. Today I'm looking at a Stamina Nightblade PVE damage dealer for the Flames of Ambition update. So, a lot has changed during this update and there's a lot to get through, so I'm going to get right into it. First thing that is different is we're going to be running a different race. A Dark Elf is now going to be the best race for stamina damage dealing. And then second will be Orc. If you're already an Orc, you should be fine. You're just going to have slightly less stamina, but it's going to equate to less than a 0.5k DPS difference, I would assume. So if you're already an Orc, that's fine. But if you're making a new character or you want to race change to push the absolute maximum, Dark Elf is going to be the best option for you. Now, for our Mundus stone, we are running the Thief. This is going to give us weapon and spell critical, quite a good percentage. We lost a lot of crit chance during this patch, so we are using the Thief to make up for that, as well as we aren't leaning into crit with our gear quite as heavily. For the gear, we are using the new set, Kinras Wrath. So this set gives weapon damage, weapon crit, and weapon damage. And the 5-piece is stacking up when you do a light attack or a heavy attack, up to 5 stacks. When you have 5 stacks, you grant an aura to your teammates, giving them minor berserk and giving yourself major berserk. So because of the changes to CP, this major berserk 10% is actually quite a significant buff. It's like being able to slot an entire additional CP node for all of our skills. So that's quite good. And this is actually giving us a lot more damage than what we were using before, which was Advancing Yokeda. And then for our second set, we of course have Relequens. This gives us critical, minor slayer, and critical again. We get a line of maximum stamina on the perfected version. And again, this stacks up 5 times. Our light and heavy attacks, granting us stacks of harmful winds, which is a damage proc, damage over time. And that stacks up to 10 times. This is a staple of stamina single target damage, has been for a long time. For the next set we have Master's Perfected Dual Wield. We are using 2 daggers. This is going to give us 1 line of weapon critical for the perfected version, and Twin Slashes is going to deal 1,600 more damage for each hit of the initial attack and bleed. So that's 2 hits of the initial attack plus 10 ticks of bleed. So that adds up quite a lot over the duration of that skill. And we are using that skill throughout the Parse to keep that damage going. For our back bar weapon, we are using the Black Rose Perfected Daggers. These come from Black Rose Prison. Spectral Cloak set. You don't need the perfected version, but it does give you a little bit of stamina recovery on the back bar. However, dealing damage with Blade Cloak grants you Spectral Cloak for 2 seconds, reducing your damage taken and increasing your damage done by 6%. So this actually gives us the most damage by giving us that 6% boost, as well as we get some mitigation, and percentage mitigation is harder to come by these days. So this is actually going to feel really nice in content as well. For the traits and enchantments on all of these, we have Divines on all of the armor, as well as all of this armor is medium, which will come into play later when we look at the passives. So Divines on all of that, that's going to give us the most crit chance from our Thief Mundus. Our Jewellery is Bloodthirsty with weapon damage enchantments. That's going to give us the most damage possible off of our Jewellery, and we don't really need any more recovery or anything. For the perfected daggers on the front bar, we are running 1 Nirnhound in the main hand, Precise on the offhand, and double damage poison outside of that. So instead of enchantments, we're using double damage poison. This is going to give us the most. And then on the back bar, we are using 2 infused daggers with 1 flame damage enchantment, which is new, and 1 poison damage enchantment. The flame damage enchantment does outperform a berserker enchantment at least in single target scenarios. So that covers it for the traits and the enchantments on the gear. Next, we're going to be looking at our skills. So on the front bar, we have, of course, Rending Slashes. This procs our Master's Dual Wield. We have Barbed Trap, Surprise Attack, Killer's Blade, Relentless Focus, and Incapacitating Strike. On the back bar, we have Camo Hunter, Deadly Cloak, Consuming Trap, Dark Shade, Twisting Path, and Incapacitating Strike. So, Twin Slashes hits 2 times, causes a bleed over time, as well as procs the damage from the Master's Dual Wield. This is one of our damage over time skills. Barbed Trap is damage over time after an initial hit, and this grants us minor force, increasing our crit damage done. We are going to be keeping this up throughout the parse to give us that minor force buff. Surprise Attack, this is our main spammable. It does 9,000 damage and applies the Sundered status effect. Attacking with Surprise Attack from the flank sets an enemy off balance. So this skill has been changed a little bit, but we weren't really using it for the additional effects. We just want the damage off of this. And it is performing better than Rapid Strikes now because we don't need the additional hits to proc bleeds off of axes anymore. So this actually is a little bit faster and works a little bit better for us. Killer's Blade, this is our main execute skill. So this deals disease damage and scales up to enemies below 25% health. Worth noting, this starts working at 24%, not at 25%. So you want to start hitting these at exactly 24%. And if the enemy dies, we get healed. That's not really applicable for a boss fight, but in a trash pull, you can slot this in a trash pull and then start slapping the low health enemies with it and finishing them off. Relentless Focus. This is kind of one of the main features of stamina damage dealing for Nightblade. So we focus our senses for 1 minute, increasing our critical damage and healing by 2% with every light or heavy attack. What that means is that when I cast this, if I have 5 stacks, I now do 10% more crit damage because I've got 5 stacks on this. Then, once you have 5 stacks, you can fire Assassin's Scourge, allowing you to fire a high damage bow proc that heals you for 33% of the damage dealt. And basically, this does a lot more damage. You look at the tooltip, it's 17,000 compared to 9,000 for our surprise attack. So we want to be firing this when it's ready as often as possible, and then stacking it back up for the crit damage, and then firing it off again. However, in execute, we do drop this and just go for Killer's Blade, but we still get the crit damage bonus, even if this falls off during our execute. Incapacitating Strike, this is our ult that we are casting all the time. Deals 14,000 disease damage and causes the enemy to take 20% more damage from attackers. Not from attackers, from your attacks. So when we hit this, our next 6 seconds of damage is boosted. You also gain some passive recovery for having this. And through our passives, we get a little bit of crit chance, so we have this slotted on both bars. Camouflaged Hunter, this comes from Fighters Guild skill line. This is just there for the passives. We don't really need this, and this is our 1 flex slot on the back bar. Deadly Cloak. We get a protective cloak giving us major evasion, which is nice. However, what we use this for is every 1 second the shrapnel pulses, dealing damage, and this activates our Black Rose Prison, 6% bonus damage on the dot, and that refreshes each time that this ticks. Consuming Trap. This is from the Soul Magic skill line. This is just a high damage, 10-second damage over time, single target, deals physical damage, costs magicka, but scales off of our highest offensive stats, which is going to be our weapon damage and stamina. For the Dark Shade, this comes from the Shadow skill line, and this is our highest damage over time skill. It scales with our offensive stats that are the highest, so again, weapon damage and stamina, but it deals magic damage. The Shade basically attacks every second. dealing damage, and sometimes in an AoE as well, which is nice for a little bit of cleave. And it gives minor maim on the enemies, which is nice as well. Twisting Path. This is normally a Magicka skill, but we are using it for this stamina spec. The new patch has brought us a lot of interesting things, including this being the highest damage option we have right now. So we are using this. It creates a corridor of shadows in kind of a cone in front of you. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly how big it is, but you'll kind of get a feel for it. It increases your movement speed when you run through it, which is sweet. If you want to run fast, you can use this. And then it also deals magic damage every 1 second for 12 seconds, which is what we're using it for. But if you like throw it down and run, you go really fast. And then Incapacitating Strike again, of course. All right, so that's all of the skills. If you want to know where those are from, this is a dual wield weapon skill, fighter skilled, shadow skill line, assassination, assassination, assassination skill line for class. And then we don't have any siphoning skills, but we have Camouflaged Hunter. That comes from Fighter's Guild as well. This is a dual wield skill. This comes from Soul Magic. And then these are both shadow skills for Nightblade. All right, so that's all of our active skills. I'm going to show you now the rotation. So the rotation has 3 parts. There's the opening, the standard rotation, and the execute. So I'm going to start with the opening. It's very simple. You just need to do it in exactly this order, and it'll work every time. So you cast Relentless Focus. Then you swap bars. You cast Summon Shade. Swap bars again. Cast Barbed Trap. That's going to clamp after 2 seconds. So immediately after you cast that, you're going to swap bars. You can hit your potion then. Then you're going to start light attack weaving. You're going to go light attack Deadly Cloak, light attack Consuming Trap, light attack Twisting Path. That's all of your back bar dots. After the Twisting Path, you're going to instantly swap. You're going to do Rending Slashes, Incapacitating Strike, and Shoot the Bow. So that's your Assassin's Will, or Assassin's Scourge. So again, what that is so we cast our Relentless Focus, get that buff running, cast our Shade, that'll be ready to attack, put down the trap, start light attack weaving for Deadly Cloak, Consuming Trap, Twisting Path, Rending Slashes, and then hit the bow proc after we do our Incapacitating Strike. So if I do that fast, I'm going to wait for this to leave combat. If I do that fast, what it does is we get all 5 stacks from our Relentless Focus. We stack up our Relequens a good amount, and we stack up our Kinras right before we hit the Incap and the Bow Strike. So that's going to look like this. Relentless, Shade, Trap, Deadly, Potion, Consuming, Path, Slashes, Incap, Bow proc. And as you saw right before I fired the Bow proc, Kinras was fully stacked, and we have Major Berserk applied to us. So that is the opening. Now, once you've got that going, so we would have just fired the Bow proc, everything would be running, and then we go 4 surprise attacks, being our main spammable, and then we go light attack, Assassin's Scourge. So we fire the Bow proc on the 5th hit. After the Bow proc, we go Rending and swap bars. So you light attack Rending, and as soon as you hit Rending, you can swap bars, and it will still go off, but you'll be instantly on your back bar. And then we recast our back bar dots by going Deadly Cloak, Consuming Trap, and then we do one of the 2 following ones. We either do Shade and then swap, or we do Twisting Path and then swap. And you alternate those every other rotation. So one rotation, it would be Deadly Cloak, Consuming Trap, Shade, swap. And then the next rotation after that, when I get to the back bar again, I will go Deadly Cloak, Consuming Trap, Twisting Path, swap. And that's all there is to it. So if we go from the bow fire, we go bow fire, 4 surprise attacks, fire the bow again, slashes, swap. We are going to cast the shade this time, then do the bow proc, then 4 surprise attacks, fire the bow, slashes, cloak, trap, and this time we do the path. And then bow proc. And that's it throughout the entire time. Now, there are 2 skills that we keep up dynamically while we're going through that rotation. Barbed trap and incapacitating strike. You can replace any one of your 4 surprise attacks with either one of these skills when they are needed. So, how we do that is, what I do is, if I do the opening, and I'm going to go onto this dummy over here because it has more health. So if we do the opening, our trap will be running and our incap will be on cooldown. So the first time, this looks like we just need 4 surprise attacks, bow, go to the back bar. We're going to start with the shade here. But now my trap is running out. So for my first surprise attack, I replace that with a trap. I go through and I do the bow proc, do the slashes, do the back bar, path this time. And then this time my incap is up. So I hit the first attack as an incap there. And then my trap is running low on time. If your trap is below 6 seconds, you can recast it with instead of your last surprise attack. And that will keep it going so that every bow proc that you hit will have the minor force applied to it. So if your trap is at less than 6 seconds, when you get to your last, when you get to here, your last surprise attack, replace it with a trap. The only other thing that we need to do throughout the parse is once a minute, so only about 2 or 3 times throughout the parse, we need to recast Relentless Focus, replacing one of our surprise attacks as well with that. So we actually have 3 skills that are kept up dynamically. You do not want to let this run out, because then if it runs out, your light attacks will no longer stack it up, and you'll need to recast it before you can stack it up, and it can throw off the rhythm of your rotation. So if you want to see that rotation in action, at the end of the video I do a parse, and you'll be able to watch the entire thing front to back, and it should make a lot of sense. The last little bit is the execute rotation. So when we get into execute, there's just a few things we need to do. We need to make sure we have 5 stacks of Relentless Focus stacked up here, giving us the crit damage. We need to make sure that our trap is up. And then all we do is, if the target is under 10%, we just have to keep up Deadly Cloak. If they're between 11% and 24%, we still keep up our shade. So let's say I was doing my execute, I was doing my rotation. I've got everything going. I'm coming up on execute. Right? Let's say I fired my bow, and then right here I come up to 24%. I would start doing Killer's Blade and dynamically keep up Cloak, Shade, and Trap. And other than that, I'm going to purely spam my Killer's Blade. And when Cloak goes down, I'm going to recast it. And that's all. Killer's Blade is instant cast, so you can swap to the back bar off of it very easily. And then all I have to do is make sure that as I'm doing this, when my incap is ready, I save it for when I've already casted my dots, so that when I hit the incap, I'm hitting 6 straight executes in a row. That's going to give you the best results during execute. You do have to just practice it and get a little bit of a feel for the transition from the execute phase to or from the standard rotation to the execute phase, but just know that at exactly 24%, Killer's Blade will start doing more than all of your other attacks. And that from that point on, you only need to cast Shade if it's going to last for the entire duration of the fight. So if there's more than 20 seconds left, recast Shade. And then outside of that, keep Barbed trapped and Deadly Cloak and execute away. That's all there is to it. All right, so that is going to do it for the rotation. Let's take a look at our passives on the Nightblade very quickly. So the most important passives for us to have, all of our assassination passives. This is going to give us penetration when we attack from a flank. We are going to get resource return when we get a kill. We get extra weapon critical rating for each assassination skill we have slotted, and we have 3 on the front bar and 1 on the back. So that is definitely good to have. And then Hemorrhage increases our crit damage by 10%. This is very important, as well as it gives our entire group Minor Savagery buff, which they can only get from having a Nightblade in the group. And that's going to proc when we deal critical damage, which we do a lot of. For the Shadow ones, this is flat recovery for health, stamina, and magicka. We really absolutely need refreshing shadows. Shadow Barrier is going to give us major resolve when we cast a shadow skill. Our main spammable surprise attack is a shadow skill. So that means that we are going to have major resolve throughout almost the whole fight, and we get this for free. We have to do nothing for it. Dark Vigor gives us maximum health when we have a shadow skill slotted. We do have at least 1 on both bars, so this is worth having, especially since we are only wearing medium armor. We aren't going to have as much health as a 511, so this helps make up for that a little bit. And Dark Veil increases duration of non-invisibility shadow skills. That is going to increase the duration of 2 of our backboard dots, meaning more damage. Siphoning. For this, I do not have any siphoning skills slotted, so the only one that you absolutely need is Catalyst. However, I would recommend that if you're having sustain issues, use Leeching Strikes instead of Twisting Path. It's about a 2k DPS difference, and Leeching Strikes is equal to almost 500 health or 500 stamina recovery on your character sheet. It doesn't show up on your character sheet, but it's equivalent to about that much. And then you can have the transfer passive and the Magicka Flood and Soul Siphoner if you like, but especially transfer if you are going to use Leeching Strikes off the back bar. I highly recommend it as one of the best ways to address sustain issues. For our weapon passives, we have Dual Wield. We're going to want all of these. Slaughter gives us extra damage during execute off of our Blade Cloak. And Dual Wield Expert gives us more weapon damage by factoring in 6% of our offhand weapons damage stat. Controlled Fury decreases our stamina cost. We are using 2 skills, so that stamina sustain is going to be very helpful. Ruffian is not strictly necessary. However, there are going to be lots of times where you're fighting trash mobs that do have these status effects on them, and that will give you more damage. So it is very good to have. If it's the last one you put into points into, you should still get it. Twin Blade and Blunt. This was the passive that was changed since last patch, making daggers, double dagger, far superior to axe and dagger. The reason being, daggers increase our crit chance by 812. So that's quite a lot. We get 1600 crit chance on both bars from using all daggers. Now, comparatively, swords now give flat weapon and spell damage, and maces give flat penetration, but axes give percent crit damage. However, worth noting with this passive, axes with the crit damage bonus are worse than a sword, even if you have 100% crit chance. So axes are never worth using. If you don't have access to double dagger, next best is sword, and then next best after that is mace, and then after that is axe. That's going to be it for the weapon passives. Armor passives haven't changed that much, except for the medium armor passives. They all scale up for each piece you have, so we have 7 pieces. We get sprint speed and roll dodge cost reduction. We get weapon damage up to 14%. This is better than it was before. We don't need improved sneak if you don't want it. Windwalker gives us a ton of stamina recovery and stamina cost reduction. Very important for our sustain. You absolutely need this. And dexterity is going to give us weapon crit rating for each piece. So that's actually a decent chunk of weapon crit by having that. For the guild, we need Fighters Guild passives, particularly Intimidating Presence reduces your barbed trap cost. Slayer gives you more weapon damage on the front bar and back bar for our weapon or for our Fighters Guild skills that we have slotted. Banish the Wicked gives us more ultimate when we get a kill, and Skilled Tracker gives us 20% damage on our barbed trap against specifically undead, Daedra, and werewolves. It does come into play sometimes and is useful to have. It's only 1 point. Undaunted, you're going to want both of these. It gives us more restore off of synergies and 2% max health, stamina, and magicka. That is going to help push us up just a little bit more on those. For racial, Dark Elf, we get increased dual wield experience line as a passive, which is great because we are using double dual wield. We get max magicka and max stamina. This is going to be more than Orc now, so that's what pushes Dark Elf above Orc. We get flame resistance, which is really nice in places like Sunspire where there's a lot of flame damage, and Ruination, which is increased weapon and spell damage. This is on par with Orc and High Elf now, but because we get more stamina than Orc, this is going to be a better race. And for crafting passives, you need medicinal use. This will increase the duration of our potion, which is our source of savagery and brutality, so we absolutely need medicinal use for this setup. That's going to do it for the important passives. We are going to now look at CP. So champion points have been completely reworked. Basically, there's the craft tree. This is all crafting stuff and like money saving stuff, so I'm not going to go into this. This is all personal preference. You can pick whatever you like. But we do have warfare and fitness. Warfare is focused on damage and mitigation, and fitness is kind of like flat stats for defensive stuff and cost reduction of defensive abilities like blocking and dodging. So I'm going to first look at warfare because this is the important one. Sorry about this constellations here, but this is all healing stuff. We don't really need to pay attention to this as a damage dealer, so I'm just going to cover that up. So where you start, and I'm actually going to redistribute and clear this so that this is what it will look like for you when you first start. Our first node that we're going to put points into is precision, and we're going to fill that up. That's going to increase our critical chance rating. Then we are going to be getting fighting finesse and backstabber. These two are going to give us crit damage when we are from behind and crit damage in general. And these are slotted nodes. So we are going to actually drag these up and put them here. And now they are slotted and they have this symbol on it. So that shows that it's 2 of our 4 slotted nodes are going to be these, leaning into our crit damage. Then we have this purple node here. You have to click into this one and we're going to fill out piercing. This is going to give us penetration that we need, and it works for both magicka and stamina pen. Then we're going to go 20 points into battle mastery. That's going to improve our chance to do things like diseased, poisoned, hemorrhaging, stuff like that, which can give us a little bit of damage over time and obviously status effects on the enemies. And that's all status effects that are caused by martial skills or physical disease, poison, bleed, damage. Then we have mighty. This is going to give us 100 weapon and spell damage to martial attacks, which is the majority of our attacks. So we are going to want to fill that out. Then we're going to come out here. So now that we've got our piercing and stuff online, we're going to put points into deadly aim and slot that. And then the last one we are going to slot is thaumaturge. So that's what you should be working towards, is getting roughly 90 points in here for those, getting all 4 of your slotted passives and this crit chance. This is going to be the majority of our damage online at this point. Then to fill it out, once you get towards higher CP, we are going to be using Tireless Discipline, Max Stamina, and then from here, max out this tree, and also do the Magicka side, because we are using some Magicka skills, and those actually do help push our damage higher. And then lastly, we want to just fill out all of the passives that we can get, so we get some free Magicka and some free healing done, but this is absolutely not that necessary. But actually, before you do that, there's another purple node here, and this is your mitigation node. So you should put 1 point into healing taken, or 10, and then fill out preparation. That's going to give us 8% damage reduction from PVE. And then we want hardy and elemental aegis. That's going to reduce our other damage taken by 4% additionally. Then you can fill out the rest of quick recovery, come back out here, fill out these passives, and that's everything you need. So if I confirm that and we look, so out of 3,600, out of 1,200 points, I've actually spent 700. So at 2,100, you're maxed out for this tree. And this is the most cost-intensive tree to really max you out for in-content combat. So that's absolutely everything you need to do with your CP. The only thing is that if you're doing Sunspire specifically, you can't use Backstabber, and you can instead use Wrathful Strikes. This will increase your weapon and spell damage, and you can just slot it in instead of Backstabber and use this instead. But that's all you got to do. And then for the red tree, it's pretty straightforward. You've got Sprinter and Tumbling. So we're going to start on Tumbling. Just fill that out. We need at least 1 in here to get the health. So this gives you health. And then basically all you really need is for the slotted, you want Ironclad and Boundless Vitality. That's going to give you armor and max health for your mitigation. And then you're going to use Strategic Reserve. Oh, sorry, not Strategic Reserve. Siphoning Spells. No. Bloody Renewal. Bloody Renewal. So this one, when you kill an enemy, you're going to gain stamina. And then we just need to find the one that gives us Rejuvenation. So if you fill out your Rejuvenation and put that up there, that's basically everything you need. This is going to give you flat recovery, recovery on kill, armor, health. This is health. This is roll dodge cost reduction. And then from there, just start filling out all of these yellow stars. There's quite a lot of them on this tree. So most of the stuff on this tree is passive. And it gives you things like reduces the cost of block, reduces or increases the amount you can block, reduces the movement speed penalty of bracing, gives you more bash damage, reduces the cost of bash, gives you more movement speed when sprinting, you get max health, reduces sprint cost, tumbling cost, less elemental status effects, return to life with more resources. That's not really that necessary. Things like that. And then over here we have cost of break free. That's important as well. So we can commit that. And then the green tree is all preferential. You'll just have to look in there and see what you want. All right. Lastly, for our food and potions, we have Lavafoot, Soup, and Sultrus. You can probably just use this in content. We have a lot of base health now, sitting around 20k without any health on our food. And Gold Coast Warrior Elixir. This is must be kept up at all time. It gives us stamina recovery, major endurance, major brutality, and major savagery, and we don't have another source of both of those buffs, so we absolutely do need this. All right. That's going to just about do it. I'm going to show you the CMX for what I did. So we are going to load this fight. As you can see, my maximum parse for this setup was 98.6k DPS with the static rotation. So that's quite good, quite quite high. We are hitting a little bit lower than last patch, but that's okay. Pretty much everyone is. And there's not too much to dissect here. I'll show you this. So some of our top contributors, light attacks, must keep those up. Killer's Blade, Execute is really huge. Assassin's Scourge, the bow procs deal a lot. And our surprise attack, Harmful Wind, Deadly Cloak, Rending. Everything is hitting in around the same range. The only thing to dissect here is that this is both from our Shade. So our Shade is actually about 5,000 DPS. Because these two get combined. So it's a little bit more than that. Here's the info page. You can see that. Oh, that's a graphical error. And then here's the graph. So it's pretty steady throughout the whole thing, and then we just go up towards Execute, which is nice. It's good to be steady damage throughout. We're sitting around 90 the entire time, and then we go right up to almost 99. So yeah, that's about it. Weapon critical 73, 74% about, and crit damage 107, so that's not too bad. And we've got plenty of penetration by flanking the dummy. Alright, so I'm going to show you a parse. I'm going to talk through the entire thing so that you know exactly what I'm doing, and hopefully you can kind of learn how to adapt your rotation around what different scenarios that can happen during the parse. So I've casted my Relentless Focus. I'm going to put up my Shade, Swap, Trap, Potion, start hitting my 3 dots, do my slashes, hit my Incap, hit the bow, and start going with surprise attacks. We don't need to recast anything yet. We do the Shade that time. We need to do a Barbed Trap on the second hit. And then this time we're going to do Twisting Path, hit the Synergy. I can hit an Incap here. Next rotation we're going to have to recast both our Trap and our Focus. So we'll do Trap. Oh, I thought I could get one in there. That's okay. And then this next time we're going to be able to hit our ult. I'm going to actually hit that there, just so that it doesn't go down. So I did skip one Rending for a trap because I didn't want it to go down, which isn't ideal, but does help us keep a little bit more consistent. I'm going to recast the trap there and save the ult because it was right at the end that it came up. So now we're going to hit that, and we've got a nice clean damage phase there. Oops, I hit the wrong button on that one. And that stuff does happen, so we're going to recast this. Trap doesn't need to be renewed. Hit the slashes. But that's a fine recovery. We do just okay there. So we're going to do 2 of these. Last one we're going to do the trap because it's coming down. Hit the bow. Go to the back bar. This time we're doing path. We're at 50%. Keep an eye on that. I am going to ult this just because I have a bow proc and everything is running. That's a straight spam phase. We're going to go quick on the back bar here because our trap is going to run out. That was perfect. We're going to hit the ult. We are going to recast this so it doesn't go down. Okay, we're getting close to that execute range. Keeping an eye on it still. Trap had just enough time on it. I'm going to recast it before I do the bow. Okay, now we're keeping a close eye on that. We're going to save our ult here. Okay. Back bar. Ult. Execute. Okay, we need to recast Trap, Deadly, keep executing. I think I'll do one more Shade. Just get that running, get the ult off. 3, 4. Put down a last trap and keep hitting this. And that's what we're gonna do. I could have recast Cloak there, but I felt like just going for the Killer's Blade was gonna be a little bit more. Okay, so that one was 94. We didn't have the best crit chance, but that's okay. It does fluctuate, and let's make sure I wasn't missing anything. Yeah, we did have everything going, so expect around 95 with the absolute maximum with good crit chance and a perfect parse being around 98k. All right, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you liked this video, please leave me a like or a comment saying that you like it. And if you want to see more videos like this, I'm going to be doing multiple different classes, and I'm going to be doing videos for additional setups for each class as well. So if you would like to see that, you can subscribe to my channel, and that will be coming out over the next few weeks. If you have any questions, I know that a lot changed with this patch, so please feel free to ask your questions in the comments and I will get back to you. And also, if there are any classes that you in particular would like to see, any specific specs that you want me to show, go ahead and let me know, and I'll make sure to get to them. There is a lot to cover for this next patch, but over the next few months, I'm going to be covering as many different classes as I can. All right. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Peace.